Syria's new leadership is open to allowing Russia to keep its military bases in the country if it aligns with national interests, Murhaf Abu Qasra, defense minister in the transitional government, told the Washington Post in an interview. If we get benefits for Syria out of this, yes, Abu Qasra said when asked whether Russia would be allowed to keep its bases in the country. According to the minister, Russia's stance toward the new Syrian government has improved significantly since the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime in December 2024. In politics, there are no permanent enemies, said Abu Qasra, who was part of a group that had previously fought against Russian forces. As the Washington Post notes, Russia may be in a position to offer Syria's new government something it wants badly. Bashar al-Assad. Abu Qasra declined to confirm whether Syrian authorities had asked Moscow to hand over Assad during negotiations, but said that holding him accountable was part of the discussions. When Bashar al-Assad decided to go to Russia, he thought that it was impossible for us to reach an agreement with the Russian authorities. Abu Qasra said, perhaps relations with Russia will be restored in a way that serves Syria's interests first, and then their interests, he added. Abu Qasra also stated that the Syrian government is in talks over the status of American and Turkish military bases in the country. According to him, new agreements with Ankara could include a reduction or redistribution of Turkish forces in Syria. Meanwhile, the US military presence in the country's northeast remains under negotiations, he added. Russia deployed troops to Syria in 2015 to bolster Assad's regime, which used Moscow's backing to suppress opposition through mass imprisonment, torture, and executions. During the January 28th talks, Syria's new leadership pressed Russia to acknowledge past mistakes and offer compensation, but the Russian delegation refused to concede, according to a Reuters source. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hyori Tiki later said Kiev and Damascus share similar views on Russia's military presence, though details were not disclosed. Given al-Sharar's past ties to al-Qaeda, Western officials have remained cautious about the transitional president's intentions as he attempts to rebuild a war-torn society. While we aim to move fast, the lifting of sanctions can be reversed if wrong steps are taken, EU chief diplomat Kaja Kallas posted on X, adding that the EU plans to scale up humanitarian aid and reconstruction efforts in Syria.
Tens of thousands gathered in dozens of cities and towns across Slovakia on Friday as vocal protests against pro-Russian policies of populist Prime Minister Robert Fico intensified across the country. According to Associated Press, the latest massive wave of anti-government rallies was fueled by Fico's recent trip to Moscow to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, a rare visit to the Kremlin by a European Union leader since Moscow's all-out invasion of Ukraine began on February 24, 2022. Fico's recent remarks that leaving the European Union and NATO was a possibility was among other recent steps by the Prime Minister that contributed to the anger of protesters. Resign, resign, was the clear message to the Premier during the protests. Slovakia is Europe, they chanted. Friday's rallies took place in 41 locations, up from 28 2 weeks ago, and another 13 cities abroad, organizers said. The rallies are the biggest since major street protests in 2018 prompted by the slayings of an investigative reporter and his fiancée. The ensuing political crisis led to the collapse of Fico's previous government. Fico has escalated the tension in the country by accusing organizers of being in contact with foreigners who organized recent anti-government protests in Georgia and are under control of Ukraine's authorities, who he said are working toward engineering a coup in Slovakia. Government officials failed to provide evidence for the claim, which organizers from the Peace for Ukraine organization dismissed. All the numerous public anti-government protests since Fico's cabinet was sworn in on October 25, 2023, have been peaceful. They will continue on February 21. Fico is a polarizing figure in Slovakia, and he survived an assassination attempt in May 2024.
prišla na tento protest z toho dôvodu, že nesúhlasím s tým smerovaním a s tými krokmi našej vlády. A myslím si, že vláda nedostala mandát na to, čo robí. A preto chcem vyjadriť svoj občiansky postoj, preto som tu.
Ktoré tu spolu s nami sú aj pre našu bezpečnosť a týmto im ďakujeme.
Sme s vami a chceme spoločne vyjadriť náš vzťah k našej krajine, našej
témou. Školstvo nie je jeho témou. Opatrenia na
vzťah slovenských miest, ale aj miest zahraničí, kde žije slovenská komunita.
Osobne neverím, že to niečo zmení, ale minimálne to spojí tých ľudí, aby sa to mohlo zmeniť v nejakých voľbách najbližších.
Ešte stále sme...